Hello everybody, today we're going to be talking about the Colorado Avalanche and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now before we start, please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new to me, new to hockey, maybe both, whatever the case may be. I'd love to have you here along the way as I try to do this as a career. Anyway, let's talk about these two teams and really what is going on here and then what is the outcome if they should miss the postseason. So for the Colorado Avalanche, they are the reigning Stanley Cup champions. They made pretty quick work of a lot of teams in the playoffs and they looked just head and shoulders above basically everybody along the way. They have got off to a rough meh-ish type start this season. Why? Well, they've had to deal with waves of injuries, an avalanche, if you will, as they've just really not got in front of the injury bug, and it's continued to really stop them from being that club that basically showed everybody that they could be the best team in the league, and they were the best team in the league. And I will say, right now, yes, they are out of that playoff spot. Yes, they are out of the wild card spot, which blows my mind. But it's not very drastic. Why? Because they have games in hand over all three teams that are above them in the division, that being Dallas, Minnesota, and Winnipeg, plus the two teams in the wild card spot right now in the Calgary Flames and the Edmonton Oilers. So it's okay. You look at this and you think they could probably catch up to any of those five teams, and it's not going to seem that unlikely, especially teams that are in that 3 spot for the division. I can't think of who it is right now. Might be Minnesota, but I have Minnesota finishing higher than the 3rd spot in that division. But you look at the other clubs too. Calgary's not been the club that they've envisioned. Edmonton has been an interesting club, but of course, I think that Colorado could definitely catch up to them, and I would have to say that I am not going to expect Colorado to miss the postseason. And if they catch a break, they'll likely finish top 3 in their division. If not, I do see them making wild card. There is no way this team misses the playoffs. They are still in the hunt right now, so once they get guys actually back, they're going to be fine. As for Pittsburgh, they have been one of the NHL's most consistent teams in the league. They've basically been the model of consistency since the mid-2000s. Previously, they made the playoffs last year with a 103-point season. Of course, they ended up hitting the injury bug, unfortunately, like the Avalanche this regular season, but the Pens hit the injury bug in the playoffs against the Rangers. But you could also look at Pittsburgh right now and say, yeah, it's not that big of a deal because they're on a 5-game losing streak, but they have had some really tough games against teams in their past 5 games. You're looking at this 5-game stretch. They played New Jersey, they played Carolina, they played Vegas. I want to say they played Boston. Yeah, they did, of course, because of the Winter Classic. I can't remember who that other team is, but all 5 of those teams are teams that look like they're going to make the playoffs and look like some of the better teams in the league. Yeah, 5-game losing streak isn't good, never is, but if they're able to pick up some points here or there like they did in 2 of the games, they picked up overtime points, then they're in a good spot. Not every team is going to be Vegas, not every team is going to be Boston, not every team is going to be Carolina. So for Pittsburgh, they really are going to be fine if they're able to balance that out with a good win streak by beating bad teams or something like that. But they were a club that I had going into the playoffs this season, or at least a chance. And they have had to deal with some bumps along the way as well. Letang has had his health issues this year, as well as his absence again. I believe his father passed away a few days ago, and he is not expected to come back until like January 11th. So you could say for him and his team, kind of makes sense on why they've had a little bit of a down season where they wouldn't be in. Plus, of course, look at their division too, and that's partially why they're not in the playoff spot. And what would the impact be for these teams and some other teams if they miss the playoffs? Really, for Pittsburgh, I'm looking at this and saying this might not be a big deal, in the sense that you already could argue that because, New York, Carolina, New Jersey, Washington, the Islanders as well, are all having good years. If they miss out, yes, you do lose a year of Crosby and Malkin trying to play for the Cup. But you also can look at that and say, well, we really had a good division and we just missed out if they did, and they kind of had some bumps along the way. On the bad side, of course, you are losing another chance for Crosby and Malkin and Letang to try to win a Stanley Cup, but Good thing is, you've got a few more chances. Whether or not it happens, I don't know. As for Colorado, missing the playoffs would be big not only for them, because they would not be able to defend their crown, but it would be huge for every other team that had any hope of winning the Stanley Cup. You're looking at teams out west. Vegas would be just salivating right then and there. You would be looking at clubs like them, clubs like Dallas, clubs probably like Minnesota would probably be looking at this, thinking that they just hit the mother load. Because if you lose Colorado out of the postseason, that leaves a few teams that really are going to be able to say, if we get on a run, we can get past anybody else in the conference. Vegas probably has that edge that you would expect to compare to some other teams within the conference. But on top of that, it's not just out west. Out east, teams like Toronto, Tampa Bay, Boston, all these clubs think, if we can survive the brutality out east, if we can get past, the Carolinas, the New Yorks, blah, 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 even the New Jerseys, if they do make it, which I think they will, they can look at this and say, if we can get out of the east, we might get, a Mickey Mouse matchup for the Stanley Cup. And I know some people will say, well, it happened to Tampa Bay. Well, I really don't think anybody's going to care if they're able to win the cup. And that's why I think for them it just means a lot more in terms of the impact if they were to miss the playoffs. Pittsburgh, no big deal. They've got some older guys. They've been there a lot. They've won the cup multiple times. They have a tough division, whereas Colorado really would probably just miss because they got hit with a bunch of injuries, and that's okay for them. Just saying that a lot of teams would really be praying for those injuries to extend a little bit, or maybe that the Avs just can't recover from the slower start they have. But anyway, that is the video for today. What are your thoughts on the losing streaks both teams have? I think Colorado's at 4 right now, and Pittsburgh, of course, is at 5. Will both of them miss the playoffs? Did you expect either one to miss the playoffs at the start of the year? Let me know why down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you go love hockey, all right?
Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.